You've been here before. Someone who texts back immediately, reliable, warm, always there. You feel comfortable, maybe even grateful. But something is missing. Then there's the other one, the one who takes hours to reply, sometimes days, the one who is hot one week and cold the next, the one who makes you feel chosen when they finally show up and invisible when they don't. And somehow, despite everything your rational brain tells you, that second person is the one you cannot stop thinking about. This isn't weakness. This isn't poor judgment. This is your brain running one of the oldest and most powerful reward programs in neuroscience. And once you understand how it works, you will never look at your own attraction the same way again. In the 1950s, a psychologist named B.F. Skinner ran an experiment that accidentally explained modern romantic obsession. He placed rats in boxes with levers. Some levers gave food every single time they were pressed. Others gave food randomly, sometimes on the first press, sometimes on the 10th, sometimes not at all. The result was extraordinary. The rats with the consistent levers pressed them steadily and stopped when they were full. The rats with the random levers, they pressed obsessively, frantically. They couldn't stop, even when no food came, even when they were exhausted. Skinner called this variable ratio reinforcement, and it is the single most addictive reward schedule ever documented in behavioral science. It is also the exact neurological pattern created when someone gives you inconsistent attention. Here's what's happening inside your brain. When you receive attention from someone you're attracted to, your brain releases dopamine, the neurotransmitter of anticipation and reward. This is the same chemical released by cocaine, gambling, and social media likes. But here's the critical detail that most people miss. Dopamine is not released most powerfully when the reward arrives. It is released most powerfully in anticipation of a reward that might arrive. The uncertainty is the drug. A person who always texts back gives your brain a predictable dopamine drip, reliable, steady, and neurologically boring. A person who sometimes texts back, sometimes doesn't, sometimes sends one word, sometimes a paragraph that makes your heart stop, that person has accidentally created a slot machine inside your head. Every notification is a lever pull. Every reply is a potential jackpot. Every silence is the moment just before the next spin. And your brain, ancient, irrational, brilliantly stupid, cannot look away. This mechanism didn't appear randomly. Evolution built it for a specific purpose, and that purpose had nothing to do with romantic relationships. Variable ratio reinforcement evolved to help our ancestors find food. In a prehistoric environment, food sources were inconsistent. A berry bush might have fruit today, might not tomorrow. A hunting ground might yield prey this week, might be empty next week. The brain that gave up after a few failures died. The brain that kept searching, kept trying, kept pulling the lever even when nothing came, that brain survived. That brain found food eventually. That brain passed its genes forward. Evolution selected for obsessive persistence in the face of inconsistent reward. And then humans invented romantic relationships, and the same ancient mechanism activated. Because to the primitive brain, there is no meaningful difference between an inconsistent food source and an inconsistent romantic partner. Both are resources worth pursuing. Both trigger the same dopamine anticipation loop. Both create the same obsessive persistence when rewards arrive randomly. The person who ignores you has accidentally or deliberately activated a survival mechanism that is hundreds of thousands of years old, and your modern, rational brain has almost no power over it. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky, who spent decades studying dopamine systems in primates, found that the dopamine spike during uncertain reward anticipation was roughly twice as large as during certain reward anticipation. Twice. The uncertainty doesn't weaken the desire, it doubles it. There's a second mechanism layered on top of the dopamine system, and it's arguably more powerful. Psychologists call it scarcity signaling. When something is rare, the human brain automatically assigns it higher value. This is true for objects, opportunities, and people. A person who gives everyone their attention freely signals low social value to the ancient brain. A person who withholds attention, who is selective, unavailable, hard to reach, signals high social value. The primitive brain reads scarcity as status, and status in the ancient environment meant survival advantage. This is why the person who treats you as an afterthought feels, paradoxically, more desirable than the person who treats you as a priority. The attentive partner's attention is abundant, available, easy. The unavailable partner's attention is rare, unpredictable, earned.
And when you finally receive it, when the person who usually ignores you finally sees you, your brain releases a dopamine surge disproportionate to the actual event. They sent a simple text. Your brain responded like you won something, because neurologically, you did. The intermittent reward combined with scarcity signaling creates what psychologists call a trauma bond, an attachment formed not through safety and consistency, but through the cycle of deprivation and reward. The deprivation creates anxiety. The reward releases the anxiety. The brain begins to associate this person with relief, not just pleasure, and relief is a more powerful attachment mechanism than pleasure. This is the same neurological process behind addiction, behind gambling disorder, behind some of the most documented and difficult to break psychological patterns in clinical literature. And most people experience it for the first time as a crush. Now, here is the part that explains something you've probably felt but never fully understood. Why does consistent love feel less exciting than inconsistent love? Why does the person who is reliably warm, genuinely available, and emotionally safe sometimes feel, despite everything, less magnetic than the person who keeps you guessing? The answer is neurological. Consistent positive attention produces a steady dopamine baseline. The brain receives it, registers it, and normalizes it. This is called hedonic adaptation, the brain's tendency to treat any stable condition as the new normal. The safe partner's care becomes the baseline, expected, normalized, but the unavailable partner exists outside the baseline. Every interaction breaks the pattern. Every reply is an exception. Every moment of connection releases a dopamine spike above the normalized level. The brain doesn't experience this as dysfunction, it experiences it as excitement. This is why people in genuinely healthy relationships sometimes describe them as boring, not because the relationship lacks value, but because the brain's reward system is calibrated for inconsistency, not consistency. The person who is good for you doesn't trigger the slot machine. The person who isn't good for you does, and the slot machine always feels more alive. Now, here is the part of this story that should make you genuinely angry. Every mechanism we've described, variable ratio reinforcement, dopamine anticipation, scarcity signaling, the cycle of deprivation and reward, is fully understood by behavioral scientists. It has been understood since the 1950s, and it has been deliberately, systematically, and profitably engineered into every major dating application currently on your phone. The swipe mechanic is a slot machine. Every swipe is a lever pull. Most cards are empty. Occasionally, a match, a dopamine spike. Keep swiping. The notification system is designed around variable ratio reinforcement. Likes and matches don't arrive on a schedule. They arrive randomly. The uncertainty is not a bug, it is the product. The algorithm does not optimize for compatibility, it optimizes for engagement time. A user who finds their ideal partner immediately and leaves generates zero revenue. A user who remains uncertain, keeps swiping, keeps checking, keeps hoping, generates maximum revenue. The apps studied the same behavioral science that explains why you're obsessed with someone who ignores you, and they built an entire industry on replicating that feeling artificially. They monetized the slot machine in your skull, and then they marketed it as a way to find love. Skinner's rats pressed the lever until they were exhausted. The only difference between them and a human being checking their phone for a reply at midnight is that the rats didn't pay a monthly subscription fee for the privilege. Drop that in the comments, because someone needs to hear it.